Guten Abend, good evening. Herzlich willkommen alle Zuschauenden hier vor Ort und im Livestream. A warm welcome to everybody here in our temporary space at the Kornhausforum and also in the cyberspace of our livestream. Until the summer, the Käfigturm is closed due to construction works for an elevator. So we are therefore really happy that we can be guests here at the Kornhausforum and still have a space for discussions and exchange. My name is Stephanie Schüppach and I'm the Deputy Director of the Politforum Bern. The Politforum Bern is a house of democracy. Discussions and dialogue are at the core of our activities. And especially in extraordinary times like today, we are convinced that it is even more important to exchange our thoughts and experiences and create a dialogue in this time of crisis and uncertainty. I think I speak for most or many of us when I say that we were really surprised and shocked by how fast the ongoing tensions on the Ukrainian borders developed in a war all over Ukraine, which forced millions of people to leave their homes. For the past 2 weeks, there have already been many things written. We have talked about it on the news and in our daily talks. Today, we will talk about how the people and civil societies in Ukraine and Russia are dealing with the war. In both countries, the civil society is very much affected by the war and its consequences. A civil society is, of course, very heterogeneous, and there are many different experiences and evaluations of the current situation. Tonight, we will hear the viewpoints of representatives of 2 NGOs in Russia and Ukraine. They both work mainly with younger people and are promoting cultural dialogue and peace building. We are very happy and honored that Yaroslav Minkin and Elena Bobrovskaya made it possible to speak with us tonight. Hello to the Zoom. Yaroslav and I met in a course on art and peace building in Zurich last year, and we share a passion for cultural peace movement and foster dialogue through the arts, which sadly became even more important than it was before. To plan the event of tonight, he introduced me to Elena Bobrovskaya, and I'm very touched that both of you, Yaroslav and Elena, will share your experiences tonight with us. And I'm impressed by your courage and strength to participate in this, despite the very difficult situation in both of your countries. Elena is joining us from Krasnoyarsk, Siberia. She's the director of Interra, the Krasnoyarsk regional non-governmental organization for non-formal education and intercultural communication. Interra is active in Krasnoyarsk since 2004 and works in the sphere of non-formal citizen education and intercultural dialogue. They promote international cooperation, mobility of young people, and organize international projects and exchange programs with partners in Europe. The main goal is to promote young people's active citizenship and encourage them to develop civil society. They focus on public initiatives, culture in all its forms, sustainable development, ecological awareness, developing the modern city space, and also social activity. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Elena. Yaroslav Minkin is speaking to us from Ivano-Frankivsk in the western part of Ukraine, and which we all heard about now, not before, many of us, I think. He's running the NGO Stan, which was founded in Luhansk and where it was active developing art projects for social change. In 2014, because of the conflict in Donbass, Stan was forced to move to Ivano-Frankivsk to continue their work there. Stan is a youth organization which uses grassroots methods of informal education and emphasizing on local initiatives and active citizenship. They have a particular focus on vulnerable and marginalized groups. And for years, they have been acting and developing a creative, just and inclusive civil society in Ukraine with democratic values. Since 2 weeks, they are also active in supporting people who had to leave their homes and are arriving in the region of Ivano-Frankivsk from all over Ukraine by providing them with shelter, information, and collecting their stories. One of them you can see behind Yaroslav. It's by an artist, Masha. I think Yaroslav will tell the name afterwards, probably. Thank you very much for finding the time to speak with us, too. I would also like to warmly welcome Eva Maurer, who will moderate the talk tonight. Since 2012, she's the head of the Swiss Library of Eastern Europe at the University of Bern. And I contacted contacted her less than a week ago with the proposal to organize this talk tonight with the voices from civil society. And I'm very happy and thankful to you for the exchange, and also to both of you that all this came together so quickly. Before we start, just some brief information for the audience. We have a photographer here in the room, and for the live stream and also for Yaroslav and Elena, we are filming everything here, the event. And so please let the photographer know, Susan Goldschmidt is standing back there, if you don't want your picture to be taken. Towards the end of the discussion, we will open for your questions. People watching on YouTube, you can put your questions in the chat or on Slido. You find the information on the live stream, and I will bring them into the analog space for you. Questions are also possible in French or German. Fragen sind auch auf Deutsch und Französisch möglich und vor Ort auch auf Russisch. Wir werden versuchen zu übersetzen. Nun wünsche ich eine gute Veranstaltung und übergebe dir, Eva, das Wort. Vielen Dank.
Danke. Könnt ihr mich sehen? Hallo, ja, herzlich willkommen. Welcome also from my side to everyone here in the room, to everyone on Zoom, but most of all to you, Yaroslav and Elena. Thank you, Stephanie, and the whole team at Politforum for putting this together at such short notice. I think it's really a big wish for all of us to talk to people who are concerned directly. Thank you, Yaroslav, for being here, because we know you have much more pressing matters on your hand, but we're really grateful you take the time to talk to us. And thank you, Elena, also, because we know how difficult it has become for NGOs, even working, and for any Russians who to voice their opinion concerning the war and just politics in general. So we're really glad to have you here, because we've read a lot, we've watched TV, we listen to the radio, but to have the chance to really talk to somebody directly is something very special. I would like to start by going back 2 weeks to the week where President Putin made his declaration speech on Monday night, on the 21st, and then the invasion, which started on Thursday, the 24th, in the morning. And I'd ask you, if you are comfortable with it, to share a bit of your experiences of this week, of these events. Was it something you expected? How did it sort of touch you personally, but also, of course, in regards to your work? What were your initial reactions and thoughts on this? Yaroslav, do you want to start?
Probably yes. I mean, 7 or 10 days before the war, I invited all our team and partners to our resource center in Ivano-Frankivsk, and I proposed to talk about the plan. And we developed 3 different plans. First, if it will be some provocations in Donbas region, it was plan A. Plan B was that it will be some provocations all over Ukraine, and we decided that it will be kind of the most possible scenario. And I also proposed plan C, that it will be like occupation of whole country or invention to all country. And the majority of our partners and friends said like, no, it's impossible, but okay, let's put it into the list. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I said to myself, like, I said them that it will happen. Mm-hmm. And yeah, then of course it was long days of receiving information about bombing and about attacks from different sides. But I need to say that I was a kind of prepared, because it was so visible, and I started to think what can be done from the very beginning, because Putin know how to put their army into the country, but I'm not sure that he knows how to put the army out of the country. I never heard about these stories after the Afghanistan or something like this. This was my first feelings. And of course it was a lot of people, my relatives, my friends, my partners, my colleagues, my classmates who were and are now under the big, under the attack of Russian troops, and under the stress if they already left the Kiev or Donbas region or Kharkiv region. And of course, I also have some people who are very afraid because they're already living in occupied areas like Crimea, and they are thinking about what will be done next and what they can do, because they already are living in occupied areas for 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We discussed shortly with Yaroslav that he was thinking about this possible situation already several weeks ago. But for me personally, it came suddenly. For sure, we discussed in many chats what's going on right now and about this, I don't know how to say it, this top gathering, Soviet Federation Council in Tivu, and everyone was thinking what's it's happening, but still nobody really believed that Putin will really go to the Ukraine and start the war, because everybody was thinking, okay, but he can be mad, he can be dictator or something else, but he's not a self-murder. But the next morning we woke up in the new reality, and many people were just and frozen for many days. And that's different reactions that people had. That was shame, denying, or angry, or it depends really on every person how they dealt with that and what emotions they had. I know just that already the first evening, I was that day on 24th, I was in St. Petersburg because I had my job there the previous day, and on Gostinka, on Nevsky Prospect, there were so many people already this evening, this very first evening, many thousands. They said that these are only 2,000-3,000, that's the official number, but there were much more people there, and all of them were somehow furious and angry with that situation. But the days after, they became difficult. Every day it becomes more difficult to say something against the war. Probably about the new law about fakes and people. Again, we discussed with Yaroslav in previous minutes that there are many reasons why people don't go on streets, or why they don't, or why they go. But the mass is still not enough really to do a change on this way. But probably it's the topic for the later. Your question was just really what is the reaction? I mean,
first 4 days it was like frozen or shock, and now more people come to their work, but also to plans, also how do they work against the war, and more self-organization in the society is already there. And on the other hand, people that are pro-war, because we have also such people in Russia. Now they raise their voices. First days they were invisible, but now you can see them massive as well.
Yes. Actually, I think I would like to continue exactly where you left off now, with access to information becoming more difficult with the new laws, with the restrictions on the so-called fake law, which forbids any false information on the Russian military. Or basically, it's a very wide paragraph that allows for practically unlimited censorship, in my opinion, and also the crackdown on most independent media. So the internet and access to internet is crucial to get information, as I understand it, especially in Russia right now, of course also in Ukraine. And I wonder how you work with this, how your organization works with this, and how different groups deal with this, because both of you mostly traditionally work with young people, right? So people who are, I suppose, actually pretty versed in the internet. But what about older people? What about people who are not so internet savvy in these times? What would you say, Elena, maybe? And I would also like to hear your point on this, Yaroslav.
Well, I mean, also elder people do get right now a VPN on their devices. Also my mom, he never did it, except of once in China. But now she does have it. Still, that will do not all people. And you're right when you're saying that it's really very, very important to keep to stay informed and to get information from different sources. In our Interra community, we discussed today morning how to proceed if we have no internet anymore, if we have just TrueNet. What does it mean? Because right now we have this опасения, this sorry, Befürchtung.
I don't understand you acoustically.
Es ist auf Deutsch, Befürchtung. Okay. We don't want to believe that, but now I think many people are getting to be prepared also for this situation. Then what would be plan B?
Yes.
It's also challenge right now how to convince other people that are not using different sources to use different sources, because the propaganda is massive, and I don't have still a big solution for that, but I think next days it will also come clear how people will work with that and with their relatives. That's the first line where we have our power, let's say.
Okay, thank you.
All time before the war, like last few months, I used BBC channels and Radio Liberty. Yes, you call it like this. To receive information, because United States informed a lot about the Putin's plan, about the invention, about the war that is coming, and it was a lot of plans shared by Secret Service of United States. But when the war started, I started to learn from Telegram channels, especially from Belarus Telegram channel, which is extremely active in Ukraine, and extremely, I can say, like they're informing people, and they have more than 1,500,000 people. They call themselves Nexta, and they were very active in Belarus, and now they're very active in Ukraine. And there are a lot of channels, but I also receive a lot of personal messages from different people. What I need to say about the communication, it was very important that before the war, a lot of people from Ukraine put Ukrainian flag on the Facebook profile. And when the war started, a lot of people outside the Ukraine put the Ukrainian flag on Facebook profile. So for me, information is something extremely important to show the solidarity. And I really ask all people who are now in Politforum discussions and also online that we Ukrainians, we see your support. We see your support of just ordinary heroes, ordinary people who are doing their ordinary and very important job. Support in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Yaroslav. I would like to go back to maybe the days after sort of the initial shock. You said you already had some contingency plans for the different scenarios, and the worst one has played out. You are in the west of the country, Ivano-Frankivsk, and I assume that your work is now nothing but ordinary, that you're probably improvising a lot, that all your current routines are disrupted. I would like to maybe have you talk about how this is a challenge in your work, sort of also the tension between having to improvise all the time, maybe having new functions, doing new things, but also creating a sort of a structure and a routine for people, because it's really important to sort of create a sort of everyday and a routine for so many people who are displaced, who are under stress. And then maybe, Elena, you could talk a bit about what your work looks like now.
6 months before the war, we created the shelter for Belarus activists in need with support of IM Swedish development partner. We created a very small space for up to 10 people who can stay in our resource center for a few days in sleeping bags, just to be sure that people can be in a safe space. And when the war started, we decided to transform different educational spaces to the shelters. First of all, our partners from alternative educational system like educational center Nevgamovny, and then some schools and offices, etc. And during the first 3 days, it was no one who wants to come to Ivano-Frankivsk. All our shelters stayed empty because all people decided to go to Lviv and then to go to Poland. And on the border with Poland, it became a kind of humanitarian catastrophe. It was 10,000s of people with babies, with small kids, without water, without everything, in a cold weather, rain, snow, and they were waiting for just to enter European Union. And after that, we decided that we will invite everyone to Carpathian Mountains, to our Carpathian region, which is really the safest place in Ukraine. And also, this is a place outside these big cities. We have a lot of villages, we have a lot of mountain villages. And for the war, it is even better because you can buy some local food, you can find some local products, which is impossible to find now in Kiev, Kharkiv, Mariupol. Yeah, and only when trains started to evacuate people from Kharkiv, Donbas region and Kiev, we received first thousands of people. Now we have our welcome tea and informational point on the train station, railway station, and we are staying all nights and all days for 7 days already. And we're trying to give at least tea and some small food and also baby food and also some hygienical stuff to people because they're coming and coming and coming. And every day we received few thousands people who are now sleeping in nightclubs, in schools without heatings, in I don't know, in offices, in barber shops, just everywhere. Yeah, and people are coming and first they are asking, do you have some free apartment? Then they start to ask, do you have some free room? And now they're asking, do you have some free space on the floor? Yeah, so now we're doing humanitarian aid, which is quite strange because as for me, this is the role of UN agencies, Red Cross agencies, different other agencies, but not NGO sector. And in fact, our friends from Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Hungary, Netherlands are sending sleeping bags and generators, and we still have this structural support of UN agencies, and which is quite stupid as for me. Yeah.
You think it will be coming, but it just takes time, or do you don't see any hope that it will be coming in the near future when you really need it?
You know, Ukrainians don't believe to any power. We have a very long tradition of democracy, at least for, 500 years. And we don't believe in power, we don't believe in presidents, in, deputies. And of course, we don't believe in international structures like UN. Because now I have a feeling that they're not acting as much as they should be, because the most active are just people who gathered something and put it into the border. And I'm really thankful to these people who decided not to wait for humanitarian corridors, who decided not to wait for Red Cross, who decided just to come and to bring what they have. Only one car, 2 cars. And this is something incredible. This shows solidarity of people outside of these big institutions. Yeah.
Thank you. I think, Elena, for you, probably the question of how to continue your work has been completely different. May you share a bit about how the situation is right now with Interra and Krasnoyarsk?
At the moment, we stopped pretty every project. We don't know if we stopped also some local that we still could have, but I'm not sure because the content-wise, it doesn't fitting at all anymore. and I couldn't do it with good heart, let's say. That's at the moment they are mostly paused, not taken away or stopped forever. The good news was for me that our partners, mostly all of them, they didn't say, "Oh, we don't want to deal with you, never ever," but it was the movement from both sides. Let's discuss how we proceed right now. We stop it or do we pause? And we decided it is a break, and then let's see how and if. And we also what need we see right now is just to speak with people inside of the community or of the projects that we have, because people are also in a very difficult psychological situation. And it's the last call that we have. Some people were in tears just because they don't have this possibility to speak with somebody open about the situation. For some of them, for others, they need just to have people where they can say in a safe space what they think, or other situations. And I think such kind of self-helping groups and calls and meetings are right now self-organizing like mushrooms after the rain. And when I think, but if I think about other NGOs that deal, for example, with disabled people or with people who really need social support, that will be already in few weeks a huge catastrophe, because they will not have enough medicaments, they will have not enough medical help, and they will have not enough money for buying things or something else, because also the spendings they had, they will reduce, because people in Russia right now are very unsure about the financial situation. Many people are losing their jobs as well, and I don't know how the NGO sector itself will survive, because people will just hire it in a couple of weeks, because no NGOs in Russia or no small businesses in Russia do have enough money for surviving for several months. That's the situation we live in, and let's see how it will develop.
Yes, and at the same time, it's not becoming easier, or it has become exceedingly difficult in the last years to give money from abroad to Russian NGOs, right? So this is also an aspect which is complicating the situation, I suppose.
But right now, it's also, even if organizations would be ready, they couldn't get it. That's
right.
That's the situation right now.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Because we cannot even sort of support the organizations which would take care of people who really are in need right now.
Yeah.
Something I would like to talk to you both about is the links of the ongoing war, the many links to the war in Donbass since 2014, after the annexation of Crimea, and then the war in Donbass. It's a war where we now estimate that over 14,000, 15,000 people have died until now. And of course, it was the primary legitimization in the beginning for the invasion of Ukraine. But something that is maybe less talked about is also the very massive internal displacement of people which followed, especially not only the annexation of Crimea, but especially the war in Donbass, where I think it's about 2 million people who have been internally displaced or have left Ukraine altogether after 2014. And you, Yaroslav, and the organization STAN have yourself moved from Luhansk to the west of Ukraine. Now, 8 years later, we see this whole, this whole process again on a much bigger scale now. Now it's maybe 8 years ago only if some people saw it. Now it's something for the whole world to see. And I wonder, sort of this. I assume that this brings up a lot of memories, also maybe trauma for people who are maybe displaced the second time even. But maybe there's also some sort of, in a bitter sense, experience that you can fall back on, right? Of a process that you have already been through in a way. Maybe you could say a bit about this.
Yeah, there are different people, of course, and they have different feelings, different situations. I know some people from Lugansk who moved to Kiev and to other regions in 2014 together with me, and they're extremely active and they're staying in Kiev, like Slava Bondarenko, and he said like, after the Donbass, it will be something the same. I mean, I'm not afraid at all. And he's now volunteering in the supermarket, helping people to receive at least something from the supermarket. But also there are people who lived first the Donbass area and then they moved to another countries. And I can say that now they also feel themselves as a lucky one. I mean, after all, more and more people must leave Ukraine. They lost everything, their homes, their cars, their properties, their families, their friends. They're looking for their fathers, they're looking for their children. And you saw probably information when children themselves cross the border with Poland, with Slovakia. And it was the news when 11 years old guy just crossed the border by himself. He spent like few days to come from Zaporizhia. But I need to say that when the war in Donbass started, the world was a kind of not sure that Ukrainians are not lying. I had this kind of feeling when people were asking, okay, and what about Donbass? Can you explain your position? And now, as for me, it is finally clear that everything that was in Donbass and Crimea was just provocations. And it wasn't our will of Donbass people or a kind of referendums organized by, these military groups of Putin. And then he said like, oh, we want to save Donbass. We want to save, Syria. We want to save all the world. If you will, it's already to all our audience, if you will hear that Putin wants to save you, please be sure that he will attack you immediately. If he said that he will give you humanitarian corridor, that means that this corridor will be bombed, like it is now in Mariupol. I mean, he's a big liar and he used this Soviet tradition, and even probably before Soviet, I don't know, like Russian Empire tradition, just to lie to all others. Like Stalin did the same, and all this Soviet propaganda did the same. They were just changing the idea and saying like, we're good and all are bad. And this phrase that we can use a nuclear weapon because without Russia, it is no sense to have a world, sounds like shit. And as for me now finally the world see that Russia totalitarian regime or authoritarian regime, I don't know how to say, kleptocratic regime, they like to lie. and they use different ways to provoke. For example, they want to save Russian speakers. I am Russian speaker. My mom speaks Russian. My father is speaking Russian. All my relatives speak Russian, and we all hate Putin. And if someone will say that Putin will come and save Russian language, Russian people, Russian culture, Orthodox, etc., just don't trust him. Like, this is from me as an Orthodox Russian, Jewish, etc. And if he will say that now all Ukrainians are Nazists and etc., just remember that this is the way how they use propaganda, not from 2014, not from 2001, but from at least 1937, or even earlier, from very beginning of Soviet regime. The lie is their main weapon.
I think, Elena, do you want to add directly something to this?
This point or to your question?
This point or the earlier question?
Yeah. Clear. In Russia, there is a big gag how Putin is saying about the same thing, for example, through 10 years. And every time he is saying something what is different. And every time everybody should believe. If you just probably this one point that people in Russia do believe Putin, I wouldn't say that it looks like really 86% would believe Putin. For sure, we don't have a majority who is very conscious, but mainly people just try to stand out of politics because they say they cannot believe anything. We just take us out. And this is also our weakness, that people do take them out. And yeah, and that's what we have also from Soviet Union. Somehow. And I wanted to add that I have fully compassion and empathy with what's happening with displaced people that are right now leaving their homes. And many people in Russia also just cannot hear about that, and many have relatives in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And if you read such posts or you hear from people, oh, my grandmother was Ukrainian, somewhere born in Kharkiv or in Donetsk, and she had experienced the Second World War, and now she would be just really completely smashed by this situation. Mm-hmm. Many people really have much compassion. Still, there are for sure people that believe that it is for freedom of Donbass, or say how else it's called in Russian propaganda. Yeah. But concerning the question of migration, I would add now that a lot of people are living also Russia, mm-hmm. and that will be for sure. They start in another point where they are not leaving the country because the country is bombed. I don't want to compare. Still, they leave their houses, they leave their lives here that were somehow manageable. And so, on one hand, people who have friends or some money or something else in abroad, they leave, and there are a lot of other people that would like to leave, but they cannot.
Yes,
they cannot. Mm-hmm. And that's it's not about all people should leave. but it's also that would be also another humanitarian catastrophe if the whole Russia would stand up and leave the country. Not possible. And there we have really a huge moral dilemma how to deal and how to proceed in this situation. And also for people who can leave, for them the situation is such a big dilemma, really.
Absolutely. I would like to come back to one point which has come up already. I think, Yaroslav, you mentioned the whole war propaganda, which in my opinion has another sort of reached another level in 2015 when they celebrated 70 years of World War II, and in Russian military and historical literature there was this whole sort of victory celebration of World War II, glossing over the huge losses that, you know, all of the Soviet Union had to take, and just concentrating on some sort of like slogans like denazification, which can now be used quite nicely to sort of reactivate this propaganda to fight against Ukraine. But my question is a bit more general. What is happening now is, of course, the militarization of both societies involuntarily, right? Sort of, in a way, Ukrainians stand up to fight for their country, mostly civilians. Many civilians are now engaged in defending the country, of course. We see people building Molotov cocktails, holding up tanks, and so on. And on the Russian side, we see sort of this other very strange reporting on the war, which we cannot call war, but only special military operations, where we never hear about casualties, where, you know, official media say there are no recruits sent to the front, while we see other telegram or other videos which sort of look a bit differently. So I think in both societies this will have an impact, a short-term, mid-term, long-term impact. And maybe you have some thoughts on this, what this really means for society as a whole, especially since both of you are also working mainly with young people, right? So people who are also the male ones prone to be maybe drafted or go to fight.
Young people who are in our projects don't want to go for a fight. That's what I have, at least luck. But basically, for the society right now, it's this not just militarization, but violization. That people do take violence as a normal tool for solving the problems. If in such moments you really see, for example, what kind of messages do I get now? They're so violent, really, or just the relationships in the society about this or folk enemy or nation enemies, or how it is in English.
Probably public enemies, yeah.
Public враги народа.
Yeah.
The enemies of the people, sort of.
Enemies of the people. This is the language that is right now in the society, and that is that could really lead to a public war in the country, because what is said, it's really so close to where people not just say, but where they already fight, where they already do really physical violence. That's
really dehumanizing the enemy, right? What is happening in a way.
It is a splitted society, and it is escalating all the discussions and all not discussions, but all the problems. And for example, in Krasnoyarsk. There is a small filial of radio station Серебряный дождь. It's Silver Rain. It's federal radio, and they said officially they stopped their programs. They said under the slogan, "We cannot speak and we don't want to lie." And they just play music, and that's it. And they have a small office also in Krasnoyarsk as a station. And this station was attacked by someone. We don't know who was it, but really with
shots?
With shots, yeah. And that's not militarization, but that's banditism. It's violence, and that's banditism that is raising in the society.
Yes.
But the full militarization was in Russia already since last 15 years, perhaps. That's really often, and that's what we try always to say and to deal with. Also, if you see, for example, like a good sign of parents, or good tone, good culture of parent to let their children take a photo in military form, and that's already in kindergarten. Just imagine, that's a kind of new normality in Russia, and these kind of things they do work out already for many years. That's why it's really difficult right now that's why I think it's also possible that those slogans are accepted right now. And why this Z, why this Z is right now also accepted. Not by all people, but it's possible in the public space right now.
Thank you.
I also don't want to lie. I need to say that in 2014, when the war in Donbass started, we had no army at all in Ukraine. It was just people and that because it was so terrible situation in 2014 and 2015. And nowadays, I need to say that lots of Ukrainians have a dream to be a kind of Switzerland and Israel in one. We want to have as much weapon from West as possible and to be as much effective as possible. And lots of Ukrainians look at Switzerland as an example of weaponization of society as a self-defending way. And I know that for you probably it sounds like why they need to have weapon, like we are trying to have no weapon at our homes. But for Ukraine, it's now the question of the security, because there are a lot of not only direct attacks from the Russian troops, but also a lot of provocations, a lot of people, I don't know, who are helping Russian troops because they are paid. And yes, Ukrainians want to be a shield of Europe. And probably when we will win the war, we will look a kind of like Israel in the sense that we will have the best weapon in the world from all over the world, and probably like it will be totally militarized country, and probably I don't know, with from 10 years old or something like this, people will be trained to defend themselves. What I need also to explain that now Russia is attacking these cities, these regions, which was on their map a kind of pro-Russian. Like Odessa is a Russian-speaking region, Kharkiv is a Russian-speaking region. And, after this attack, it will be like never ever people will vote for someone who will try to have a kind of friendship with Russia. So I don't know why are they doing this, but attacking so-called Russian-speaking regions, or sometimes they call them pro-Russian, it was very dangerous for all this kind of nostalgic Soviet propaganda, etc. Like now people are so angry and so against Russia that Russian troops even can't come to the cities. Even when they occupied cities, they're afraid to enter the cities because people will do anything. Like we have a lot of videos from very old women who just saying like, I have 2 knives, I will try to kill at least 2 of them. And people are so angry that they can use anything to fight with occupants. And all these propaganda videos that people are waiting with flowers are lie. I want to say the phrase of one old lady from Kherson Oblast when she started to talk with 2 Russian soldiers and she asked, go away, go back home. And they said, no, we don't want, we will save you. She asked them just to put some seeds of sunflower to their pockets,
The pockets?
Pockets, yeah. They asked why, like, because when you will kill, at least we will have some sunflowers on our earth, on our country. Like, this is the only way we see now these old soldiers, probably it will be very complicated war and very dangerous and very violent because people are totally out of this peaceful reality. Unfortunately, I'm talking as a person who spent a lot of years for peace building. And I know a lot of peace builders and human rights defenders who now in the army, who said, sorry, mom, sorry, dad, sorry, friends, I'm going to fight for my country. And that because it is just impossible to win Ukraine, because all people from youngsters to very old people, they're ready to fight.
Here I would add something else, that the reaction in the Russian society is on one hand this militarization for those who were ready to accept it. On the other hand, I think that right now is a new anti-military movement born in Russia. That's something what we didn't really have before, and that's what right now is in progress. And the military service is not popular among Russian young people, not at all. It was not popular before, if then like a social possibility to somehow to live a clear life, let's say. But among main young people, no, that was not the priority or not the wish. And on one hand, it was ideological because that was against their state. They don't want to support the state. On the other hand, it's just as a reality of young people that I really see that they don't want to live in this past. They don't want to live in past values, and that is somehow for them I don't know how it will go right now, but that was before. But many young people would love to be out of that old paradigm.
So this would also probably help to sort of break the spiral of a violent society if you would go the work, sort of the path of looking critically at the military and also at the military structures in Russia, right?
What I said in last few minutes, that was about young people, and my previous message was about the whole society. It looks for sure differently because we have different stratas also in the society and generations.
Yes, I think we're about ready to open the discussion up for the public. Maybe I would just like you to say very short, maybe each short statement about how you perceived the international sanctions, the international reactions, the political reactions, the protests, the boycotts, the sanctions, whatever. Yaroslav, you've already said we see you, we see the support, international support. Which often when we are here feels something very helpless we do, all we can do is sort of protest and send support and send money, but we often feel helpless. But also you said, Elena, your work is also affected also by, for example, the cutting off of banking ties to abroad, by the non-possibility to go abroad for many people, the restrictions that there are. So how do you perceive this in your work and in your everyday?
Yaroslav, would you start? I would love to gather a bit my thoughts.
If you are asking me about the international reaction, and I need to say that yes, I have feeling that you are supporting us from different ways, in different ways. I know that you can't close the sky, which is a kind of hot topic for all Ukrainians. And if you will find any Ukrainian who is now speaking publicly, the first request will be to close the sky. Yeah. But what I see, this is a very big solidarity in all countries. I received hundreds of support messages, hundreds of invitations for people from different people who never saw me before. And there are a lot of stories when people who never met each other before supported, gave their apartments, gave the food, help with transportation, help with educational questions, etc. I mean, I'm really thankful to you, to all people all over the world who are supporting us. I know that it is not only so-called global north or like Western society. Also, there are a lot of people from different perspectives, from all over the world who are supporting us. And I know that people even now who are stuck in different places of the planet, they receive this support. Because as for me, people in the world, they don't want to have a war. And this war in between Russia and Ukraine will influence everyone in the planet. Even, I don't know, in Australia, even in India, it will be like this. Because I know that now in this global world, everything is connected. And first this COVID crisis, which was also security crisis, yes, which kicked us a lot. And now we have another security crisis where one country can just attack another country in the center of Europe. without any kind of any questions. Yeah, they just decided to attack. So we're on the way to another world, and I really want to say thank you to all of these milliards of people, billions of people who supported us.
I get also many private messages how people can support me or us as an organization, and actually I don't have any idea how. You cannot. there's no possibility, and I don't see how and what, because it's right now not the situation where we could do something for normal work or something else. I don't know. Probably if people will be in danger, then it would help to create also these corridors for those who are really in danger, that they don't go to the prison, at least. That would help. The sanctions in Russia, we will feel them very strongly, I suppose, in few weeks. Right now, it's very tangible, and it's we feel already very much. But I think in few weeks the situation will be much more. Will be worse, just. And I don't see right now that the sanctions press the Russia in the way that Russia would give up this invasion. And that's for me the biggest разочарование.
Disappointment, yeah.
Disappointment, yeah, yes, that they don't work, and they work actually in the way back. I mean,
against you.
Not against us. That's as well, but that it just makes Putin and co able to speak that to be more violence, and to be more, and to work for the war, because now they have their sorry, I can't speak anymore. Their оправдание.
Yeah, their justification.
Justification. The whole world is against us, and that's why we should hold on, and we should go until the end. And I don't know how the solutions. I understand completely the sanctions, but as I said, my disappointment is that they don't work the way we all would like to. Okay. And normal people, they will suffer from them. Yeah. Very, very soon. Yeah, let's see how it, because the economical situation will be difficult in the country.
Yes. Okay, I think now's a good moment for Stephanie to take over, and you can ask questions here. Please indicate if anybody wants to ask a question, or we'll take a question from the chat.
Yeah, probably I will also ask people in the Polit Forum just to ask any questions. Maybe you can just put few questions, because if you came to this discussion, I'm sure that you have questions, or you have comments, or you have your own narrative. I will be happy to hear your narrative from Bern.
Okay, yeah.
I've been traveling all over Russia in 2019, from Murmansk down to Baku, and I had a lot of discussions, and my impression of the system Putin was that the system could survive because he had strong supporters. the oligarchs. And for example, I got someone told me on the Kola Island there was a fishing village, and the fishes had been able. The fishes were public property, and from one day to another, they were told, "You are not allowed to fish for the market. You are just allowed to fish for yourself." So they lost their income, and the background of this was that one of the supporters of Putin got this right to fish and to sell the fish in Murmansk with increasing costs for the consumers. So I'm telling this because I got the impression Putin can't, and many people told me Putin can't survive without these economical supporters. And as long as they are content with him and increasing income, then he is fine. But now they are losing, obviously, too, these supporters. So this is my hope as impact of the consequences, that if they are losing and they get the impression Putin and his crazy war doesn't support us, it's the opposite. So my question is, do you have any hope that this will happen, that they will say, we don't support you anymore because this is against our interests, personal interests, economic interests, and do they have the power to change the situation?
Yeah, that's one of the versions, but unfortunately we don't know. Because that should happen already in the first days, obviously, but it didn't happen. It means something else is holding the system inside of the small clique, small group of people, but something else. What else? No, probably all together will work out. Mm-hmm. I mean, all tools, all instruments, all ways that are run right now. Mm-hmm.
We have a question also. I quickly take the one from online and then I come here. We have a question to you, Elena, that someone is asking that you are using the word war. And they asking if you don't have anything to fear now that you're using this and participating.
I don't know. It can happen. But many people in Russia also, they have right now two ways of reacting on that. I mean, those who used already the word war. One part just reduced using of this word. They also put out all the posts from Facebook or from other sources in the way that they have more time and are more and are able then to proceed against the war somehow else, that they don't get in danger immediately. That one part of people. And the other part of people just saying, no, we don't want to use another word and we will use it further. I don't know. I'm probably right now in the situation where I'm just ready to do that. That's it. It's also some kind of отчаяние. Sorry, I must.
Despair, maybe.
Just a few moments. Despair, yeah, that's despair.
Yeah.
I was in the 2014 for 3.5 months in Slavgorod working, and there I had a very strange contact to the church, Orthodox Church. So I went here in Bern to the community. They celebrated their mess. Oh, how do you say? I don't know. And I felt very strange because first they couldn't speak free as they normally do. And so I have now the question, how do you feel with the church in your place where you live? What does the church there? Do they have a rule or they are not existent?
Is it the question for both of us?
Yeah.
And Yaroslav, you probably.
Yeah, I can say that the number of people who believe in Ukraine is incredibly high. I know only few people who will say that they're not religious nowadays. Yeah, I know that for you in Switzerland it sounds like wow. Yeah, but in Ukraine it is not a question anymore. To be religious or not to be religious. Unfortunately, totalitarian regime use any methods to have propaganda, education, culture, religion, anything. And Russia propaganda is very powerful, and they use church a lot. This is a big conflict inside the Orthodox Church, because people who are coming to Orthodox Church, they're very different. Some of them could be very pro-democracy and progressive fun, and they will use a lot of texts from the Bible to support democracy. Other can be like totally, I don't know, totalitarian or conservative one, and they will also use a lot of texts from Bible to support their positions. As for me, church itself, as a concept, Christian church is something very important, and a lot of Ukrainians and Russians used church as a last place, as a last shelter for at least 100 years. And you need to remember that Soviet regime destroyed more than 90% of churches in Soviet Union, in all Soviet space, yeah. And that because I'm so surprised that now church in Russia are talking about some kind of support of communist or I don't know, support of totalitarian regimes. Unfortunately, it is, I don't know, I criticize this very much, but I believe that it's not about the religion, it's about propaganda, and you can't say that education is bad. Yeah, I hope that there are no people who will say, no, don't go to school. But I need to say that for young generation in Russia, I will ask not to go to school, because school in Russia, education in Russia is evil. And the church, unfortunately, also used the same as education, the same as culture, used to propaganda. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that Russia is a very religious country. Well, it depends also very strong on the region, and also on which kind of church or which kind of belief is there, basically. In Caucasus, you see something else. In Siberia, I always said that we are multicultural and Western Russia was for me too religious. In Krasnoyarsk, we never had so many churches or so many, and also other people, also indigent people, they had other religions in my region. That's why that was for me another way, and for many people in Siberia too. The church lost its positions when the patriarch went too close to Putin and to the power, let's say. And that's why I know pretty many people that don't go to the church, don't want to be close to there, because they perceive it's really not as free space, not as space of cost. But I know also a lot of people that are religious people, and they speak against the war. And I just saw a minute ago how many people did sign the open letter, people from church, and there are 286 in the moment from the church. I mean the priesters who signed, they are against. Not too many, but you also should understand in which strong hierarchy they are right now in the church. And what does it mean for those 300 people?
Yes. Thank you. There's another question there.
In Ukraine, the church in Ukraine, does it support you? Does it help the people who are now fleeing from their cities? Are they in some form engaged in helping the Ukrainian people? Or are they neutral?
First of all, I need to say that in Ukraine, we have few different denominations. We can't say about the Ukrainian church, Christian church, as something main. Yeah, we have Greek, we have Orthodox church, we have Greek Catholic church, we have different Protestant church, we have Muslims, and all of them usually are supporting, except some religion leaders who are connecting to Russia, or who have a kind of, I don't know, links or are supporting Putin propaganda. But nowadays, I didn't recognize any kind of anti-Ukrainian speech from religious leaders in Ukraine. It is like the aggression from Russia is so open that I can't imagine that it will be any kind of, I don't know, religious leader who will say, okay, this is something good. And yes, people use churches in Ukraine as a shelters now, because now we have a lot of aviation, bombing our cities, and people are going to church not only to pray, but also to stay at safe place. And if in Ivano-Frankivsk you will hear the alarm, the best solution is to go not to the underground, to the shelter, official shelter from Soviet period, but to go to church. This is the safest place for during the bombing. And of course, churches are very supportive. All churches, like all religious groups, are now given food, providing with something to different people, of course. Like, for example, like free food from Catholic Church, a lot of support from Protestant Church, and but of course there are some religious leaders who can be, I don't know. Till now, I have a feeling that church is very supportive for us.
Okay. There's, I think, another question or two from the chat.
Yeah, we have two more from the chat and one here, and then I think we're going to close. So I take some of the chat now. One question is, what is your personal prognosis or predictions for the development of the situation as you're having the first-hand experience, and what kind of further steps implies this in your planning, in your actual project? And I think I just caked them together, the two questions here. And the other one is, someone is saying that an Ukrainian friend of him commented that 75% of Russians are supporting Putin and that they don't deserve any pity. What do you both think about this, and what could we or you do to reduce such hate?
Sorry, Stephanie, can you explain one more time the second question about the 76%?
Yeah, someone's friend wrote that an Ukrainian friend told them that 75% of Russians are supporting Putin, and that's why they don't deserve any pity. But he's asking now what can be done to go against this hate. Is there anything that we or you can do?
Maybe Elena, you want to go first?
To predict, to make any predictions, we all have this range from quick end and then building up the new life, or this or the atom war or world war that is biggest disaster on this range, and something between will probably happen. I don't have the big hope that it will end soon, but I also deeply hope that it will not end with a world war or with atom war, nuclear war, sorry. And for how long, I don't know. My own strategy or tactic or for our organization and for many people in my surrounding is to make plan B right now, and then also for many it is still fighting against in which way and how, it's very individually or not clear yet, or it will develop in next weeks and months. I don't have any predictions. I can only have hopes, let's say. And about this 76%, that's also what in Europe is often said. But I don't know. This number that doesn't. This number doesn't fit the reality. A friend of mine was watching the election in last autumn. It was the Russian parliament, and he could also say what internal, what were the official numbers, and when we calculated how many people came and what was the official number, let's say, even if we calculate it in official way, it's not more than 15% really of the people that could vote. That means we have voices that are pro-Putin, that are pro this war, but basically it is, I suppose, under 20 or even 15%. It's the main part of Russians don't say anything. They cannot, or they take them out, or they just are unable. What you we don't discuss now why, because the reasons can be different, very different, and still we are all aware that we will deal with this hate wave after the war for a very long time. Every person in Russia, intellectual person in Russia who says something against war is saying also that we will live now with this shame, with this hate, with this situation over many years and generations. The prognosis is not so good. I still believe that after the war, the youth connections, the youth exchanges, and this kind of work will be needed more than ever. But when we will come to that, that's a big and it's a huge question for me.
I need to say that I will be more optimistic than Elena. From my teenager age, I'm celebrating one date in the year, the 5th of March, because for me it's a really great holiday. And I'm sure that lots of Ukrainians love to celebrate this 5th of March as a day of Stalin's death. And I'm sure that people can live long lives, and tyrants also can live long lives, but they can't live forever. And I believe that after Stalin death, we will celebrate some other deaths of tyrants. And I hope that it will be something we can organize all together. I want to invite you to Ukrainian Borscht for celebrating the death of tyrants and the new era of our society. This is the plan for the future. I don't know, but for now, what we are doing, we are supporting people who are coming through our city, and I am sure that this is something important we need to do. Every day we received more than 3,000 people who are staying in the trains for 48 hours sometimes, from Kharkiv, from Dnipro, from Donetsk region. We are trying to share voices of people who are still staying in occupation in Novakhovka and Kherson, and you will see the picture, and we have lots of pictures about people who are trying to survive nowadays. And also we are planning to prepare a kind of solidarity action in between cultural workers, in between educators who became, they became a kind of heroes. They started to do their guerrilla humanitarian aid. Even in the cities which are occupied now by Russian troops, I have a lot of friends who are doing their everyday work. They are supporting people everywhere in Ukraine. And now there are a lot of people who are supporting Ukrainians outside the Ukraine. And I'm sure that we will build this strong democratical, movement together with people from Russia who are supporting democracy values, human rights values. And I'm sure that we have so many in common, and at least we have a common history. We have the same tyrants who were killing millions of people during 20th century and now during 21st century. And I'm sure that we have much more in common in between Ukrainians and Russians. We have common enemies and common challenges. And I hope that not only young generation, but also people who stayed for democracy during perestroika, who stand for democracy during 90s, we all together will stay for democracy. This is my plan.
Thank you.
So we have one last short question, and then we have to unfortunately round up the discussion.
Well, perhaps there's a hope in terms of compromise between both countries. Just before I came here, I read in the news that Zelensky is willing to accept negotiations about the loss of the Crimea as being part of Russia, and about Donetsk and Luhansk as autonomous territory. It is our information in the news, just in the evening. So my question is, if this would be right, if this wouldn't be fake, and I think it's not fake, then what would be the consequences for the Iranian? Well, is the situation already so far that they will accept the separation, the loss of these two regions? Or what is the impact on their willing to defend?
I mean that, yes, people want to have peace. Believe me, all Ukrainians dream about peace. But the challenge is that you can't have any compromise or any discussions with tyrants who are lying every time. If Putin will promise us that they will immediately stop the war, if we will say that Crimea is Russian, don't believe him. Don't believe tyrants, don't believe people who are against democracy. They can say everything you want to hear, but look at their actions. We asked for the humanitarian corridors for people from Mariupol 3 times, and they 3 times promised us to give this corridor. And every time they're starting to bomb people who are preparing to go out from this, from Mariupol. I'm sure, and I hope that you're also sure, that no contracts with Putin should be done anymore. You can't trust a person who is saying you that he is fighting for peace. You know, the guy who is saying, I'm fighting for peace in Ukraine, it sounds like crazy idea. And we Ukrainians now are so angry that we also can promise everything. But believe me, if we will be strong enough, we will do our best to fight the Putin regime. Everywhere, in every country. And now it will be a big fight in between pro-democracy activists and pro-Putin people. And if Ukrainians will meet any pro-Putin person in any country, it will be for sure a kind of very complicated story. Because I can't imagine how you can trust the person who just are lying for all of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's time for Stephanie Schupach to come up here and do the final remarks. I just want to say goodbye to you and say on a personal note, but I think I speak for many of us, that I wish you both all the best and may be safe. May this war end soon and may you be free. I think we're all wishing for this war to end sooner rather than later, but it's also clear that it cannot be under difficult circumstances. So, Stephanie, please.
Thank you, Eva. Yeah. Thank you very, very much, Slava and Elena, for taking your time and courage to speak to us and share your experiences and thoughts about the situation. I think everybody is kind of overwhelmed too with all this, what we heard from you, and probably also ask themselves now, what can we still do to support you? You mentioned it, Slava, and also Elena, that it's a time to stay solidarity with both people. And I think we have many actions here also in Switzerland going on. There's the Swiss Refugee Council is also asking people to take up people that had to leave Ukraine, and also there's a National Action Day for donations, which is a bigger thing, and we hope it will reach the regions where it is used. As you just said, there's no structure built up there yet, so we hope that this will happen soon. And also I wanted to share just one small action from Artes Foundation, the foundation that organized the course Slava and I met in. They organized some donations for artists and cultural workers in or from Ukraine, but also for peace-committed artists in Russia. I'm not sure if this will still be able to reach Russia, but so there are many different possibilities to support. We will also continue to observe the developments and talk to people in Ukraine and Russia, and also about the consequences to other countries and aspects of our lives. And we will continue the dialogue and the discussions here, as we are also really privileged to do this anytime. And outside you also hear a demonstration right now. I think it's for International Women's Day though, but yes, so we still have this privilege. So I thank you very, very much for joining us, and I hope we speak soon on some other channel maybe too. And I also thank the audience a lot for coming, and everybody watching us online. The video will also stay online for now if you want to share it, and thank you very much for your questions. Good evening. Thank you.
And thank you also for this possibility to speak to Slava.
Очень рад был увидеть. Всем нашим привет. Thank you, bye.
Bye.